Mark Levin here. After any presidential election, I take time to reevaluate my own financial investments. That's why I continue to invest in gold for help with my financial protection. When it comes to gold, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're a top gold company in America, and that's who I turn to for my own gold purchases. Call them now at 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit. And see if you qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. And tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Lots of big stories. Aurora, Colorado, going on out there, Madison, Wisconsin, and so forth. But before we get to those, Loudoun County School System seems to be under the iron fist of the radical left. Seems to be a petri dish in so much that takes place in this country. And it would appear the NAACP, at least the branch that's involved in Loudoun County, Virginia, has a lot of time on its hands. Has a lot of time on its hands over there at the NAACP. I want you to listen to this report from NBC4 Washington. The local NBC affiliate, obviously. Let's take a listen to this, and then I want your thoughts about it. Cut 16, go.
Some families and students at a Loudoun County high school are outraged. The president of the Loudoun County NAACP says students are forced to pass around cotton during an advanced history class.
Yeah, she says the offensive lesson happened last week at Riverside High School in Lansdowne. Amy Cho has the story you'll see only on News 4.
Controversy at Riverside High School after some students were forced to touch cotton during a history lesson on slavery, according to Pastor Michelle Thomas. She's president of the Loudoun County NAACP and says she received a complaint from a black student in the class.
Black students were extremely embarrassed and humiliated. In some sections of the class, we had students that were actually laughing and making jokes.
Thomas says she hopes teachers understand the hurtful connotations of cotton to students of color.
The fact that teachers have cotton on hand to be used as demonstration, that is problematic, especially when they're teaching advanced classes.
News 4 obtained a letter sent by the school's principal to parents in which he acknowledged the lesson had brought up some uncomfortable feelings in students. The principal also wrote that teachers, administrators, and counselors would be working together to support students who were involved.
The letter also said, "We take matters that involve our students' safety both physically and emotionally seriously, and LCPS is dedicated to creating a safe and inclusive learning environment for all students."
And Loudoun County Schools just sent News 4 a statement moments ago saying the lesson was part of a discussion around the invention of the cotton gin and enslavement. The school system said it must and will do better to achieve a safe and inclusive learning environment for students. LCPS also said it'll work on better guidance for teachers when lessons could potentially be associated with trauma. And the school system promised to review policies with staff around giving parents advance notice when the sensitive topics will be discussed in class.
Is this a joke? Is this a joke? Cotton was the main agricultural product, particularly the South. They sold it heavily overseas to the British and the French, and then we had the Civil War, and the cotton gin was had an enormous impact on the growth of the use of cotton and the economy in the South. Is there something going on now? I don't understand. Do people use Q-tips? Do they have cotton balls? I mean, do you have cotton clothing? So you're passing cotton around as an example of what was produced and what took place? And that's offensive? That the president of the NAACP got a complaint from an African-American student about having to see or touch cotton? Do I understand this story correctly, Mr. Producer? And that the Loudoun County School system is going to do a better job and counselors are available for anybody who's offended. Did I hear that too? Now, what the hell is this? If you want to teach American history, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you want to teach slavery, how do you avoid cotton and the cotton gin? I'm quite serious, and its impact on the South. Actually, its impact on the American Revolution, as a matter of fact. So it was racially insensitive to pass around cotton? Is this serious? And did you hear how serious the report was? The fact that NBC4 Washington found this to be an imperative news story, it's crazy. So that tells me the local NAACP in Loudoun County doesn't have enough to do. And so this apparently rises to the top of the list. Cotton being handed out or being shown in a classroom teaching history. And as the school district did say, the impact of the cotton gin and cotton on the South, that is highly relative. In fact, many slaves were brutalized picking cotton in the South. So this is nuts, absolutely nuts. It's an amazing thing. You know, DeSantis was under attack in Florida because he rejected this CRT crap and the wokeism crap and all the rest. Said, no, you teach history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when you're talking about cotton, and cotton was used in the South, how slaves were picking it and brutalized picking it, that's the bad and the ugly right there of American history. No. You can't pass cotton around in the classroom because that's offensive. Passing cotton around in the classroom is offensive, says the pastor, president of the NAACP of Loudoun County. It was a history lesson on slavery and the invention of the cotton gin. Well, it's kind of hard to have a history lesson on slavery and the invention of cotton gin without cotton. And it must be so horrible to actually show cotton and pass it around in the classroom. It must be so damn offensive. Why? Why? It sounds to me like the teacher in the lesson plan was showing some of the ugly underbelly of what had taken place during this period in American history. That's American history. That's American history. Loudoun County school system ought not apologize. You don't need counselors. You need a backbone to stand up against this idiocy dressed up as racism. That's history. That's history. The product is cotton. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It's lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you can even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. The NAACP of Loudoun County should be celebrating what this teacher did, what took place in this classroom. I wonder if the president of the NAACP actually understands the significance of cotton during the slave period. Because honestly, she sounds like an idiot to me. Here's ThoughtCompany.com. It's hardly a right-wing site. The cotton gin made the cotton industry in the South explode. Before its invention, separating cotton fibers from its seeds was a labor-intensive and unprofitable venture. After Eli Whitney unveiled his cotton gin, processing cotton became much easier, resulting in greater availability and cheaper cloth. However, the invention also had the byproduct of increasing the number of enslaved people needed to pick the cotton, and thereby strengthening the arguments for continuing enslavement. Cotton as a cash crop became so important that it was known as King Cotton and affected the politics up until the Civil War. Whitney's cotton gin revolutionized an essential step in cotton processing. The resulting increase in cotton production dovetailed with other Industrial Revolution inventions, namely the steamboat, and it goes on. Much of the South's suddenly increased quantity of ready-to-weave cotton was exported to the North. Much of it was destined to feed the New England textile mills. When he died in 1825, Whitney had never realized the invention for which he is best known today had actually contributed to the growth of the enslavement of black people to the degree it did, I should say, in the Civil War. While his cotton gin had reduced the number of workers needed to remove the seeds from the fiber, it actually increased the number of enslaved people the plantation owners needed to plant, cultivate, and harvest the cotton. Thanks largely to cotton gin, growing cotton became so profitable that plantation owners constantly needed more land and labor of enslaved people to meet the increased demand for the fiber. From 1790 to 1860, the number of U.S. states where enslavement was practiced grew from 6 to 15, and largely because of cotton. From 1790 until Congress banned the importation of enslaved people in 1808, and that would be under the Constitution, the South imported over 80,000 Africans. By 1860, the year before the outbreak of the Civil War, approximately 1 in 3 residents of a southern state was an enslaved person. Now, this is relevant. This is important. It is a cancer on our history. It's being taught in the classroom. They pass around cotton to demonstrate, well, they know what cotton is. What was that? Well, what the hell did you think the teacher was doing? Making a racial display? How ridiculous is this? How absurd is the NAACP of Loudoun County? How absurd is NBC4 in Washington, D.C. for even reporting on the damn thing? Well, Mark, why are you bringing up? To expose it. That's why. To expose it. Is there nothing better to do in Loudoun County? What next? We're going to take all the cotton products out of our grocery stores, out of our makeup stores, out of our clothing? What the hell is this? It's so stupid. Somebody's offended. Offended by what? That cotton was passed around and they were forced to touch it. Nobody was forced to touch it. They passed it around the classroom. When I was a little kid, they would pass things around the classroom. And you're sitting there and you're offended? You're offended. Well, what was taught in that classroom? The school district said. What was taught in the classroom? slavery, the invention of the cotton gin, its impact on the importation of black people, the expansion of slavery in the South, it seems to me that's pretty damn relevant. Here I am defending it, and we have the NAACP trashing the fact that cotton was passed around. My God, what the hell is wrong? And no, I'm not making a big deal of this. It is a big deal. If you're a real teacher, and it's a real classroom, and you want to teach real history, you're putting your career on the line. I don't give a damn what the president of the Loudoun County NAACP thinks. What do you think of that? If this is the best she can do, I mean, I bet you right now that the vast majority of minorities in Loudoun County agree with me. That the vast majority of black folks in Loudoun County agree with me. That you do want to teach this. You do want to explain what took place. And so what? You pass cotton around in the classroom. Wow, that's offensive. Now, it's only offensive if you want it to be offensive. Pastor. Shockingly absurd and ignorant. Truthfully. King Cotton had an enormous role in the lead up to the Civil War and the Civil War. As a matter of fact, I've mentioned this in the past, states like Georgia, and yes, South Carolina, one of the reasons they wouldn't sign, they were so resistant, by the way, of the American Revolution, even though their delegates to the Second Continental Congress signed on to the Declaration of Independence, was because of cotton. Because they were selling such enormous amounts of cotton overseas, especially the Britain. They didn't want to go to war with Britain. They were happy. And in fact, you had militia in southern states like Georgia and South Carolina that were fighting for the British against the American Revolution. They said, what the hell do we have to do with Massachusetts and Boston? What the hell do we have to do with Pennsylvania and Philadelphia and New York? Nothing. We're just fine. God forbid if you pass out cotton, I don't know what else is barred. What else can't you pass out? I know you can pass out condoms. I know you can pass out pornographic material. I know you can pass out all kinds of crap and all kinds of S in the classroom. But apparently cotton's on the list. Don't pass it out because it's offensive. And the NAACP, the local NAACP, is very offended because they got some students who were offended. At least one African-American student was offended. He should have been sat down. It should have been explained to him. It should have been put in context by the NAACP. They're the ones who should be applauding the fact that this course is being taught, that this teacher, whomever he or she is, has taught it. Notice there's not a word in this entire report or by these comments by this pastor that anything offensive was said, that there was any racist implications whatsoever. It was the cotton that was passed around. Don't you see? No, I don't. I'll be right back. The markets are volatile. They're shooting up wildly only to drop without warning. The Fed just cut rates yet again, this time by a quarter point. Why? Because the Federal Reserve is not confident the economy is strong. In fact, last month only 12,000 jobs were created, all of them in the government. That's why I'm telling you again, diversification is crucially important. And diversification with gold is what I do. And the company I use, and I've used many, the best one is Advantage Gold. Call them now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit to see how gold can help you diversify your investments and take advantage now. Now, gold has been helping to protect and grow wealth for people for thousands of years. And in these times, it can be more crucial than ever. When it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're one of the top gold companies in America. They're who I turn to when I purchase gold. Call them now, 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000 now for a free gold investment kit to to see how gold can help you with your investment portfolio, a.k.a. your bank accounts, your paycheck. And when you do, you could qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Folks, don't wait. Call them now, 800-900-8000, and tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, America's tyranny hunter. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
You know, the NAACP, there's many branches, used to be such a fantastic entity, especially 100 years ago, 80 years ago. But they reduced themselves to this. Is that right? I'm just saying how absurd it is. All right, we're going to move on. I don't want to waste any more time on this, but I thought you ought to know about it. Anytime we can get information about these things that are going on in the classroom, which isn't often, but a lot's going on, then I need to use it. I need to explain it to you. 14 suspects detained in home invasion, kidnapping at Colorado apartments where viral video surfaced. Remember this in Aurora? This Venezuelan gang? There was no Venezuelan gang in this country 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Now they're all over the damn place. Remember the governor, this guy Polis? Oh, we don't have a gang problem. Remember the mayor? Hey, we don't have a gang problem. All these miscreant, malcontent reprobates. Well, you do have a gang problem, you jerks. Aurora police detained 14 suspects early this morning after officers responded to a report. Let me tell you where this is from. This is from CBS News. Of a home invasion. Remember that apartment building? It was in that apartment building. They broke into one of the apartments. The Edge at Lowry Apartments, the same apartment complex where a viral video surfaced earlier this year showing suspects terrorizing residents with weapons. That video prompted President-elect Donald Trump to target the city in his deportation plan during a campaign stop earlier this fall. Just before 2:30 a.m., officers responded to a report of an armed home invasion involving a stabbing and kidnapping at an apartment in the 1200 block of Dallas Street. Well, what happened? According to police, the preliminary investigation suggests several suspects, 13 males and possibly 3 females, entered an apartment at 1258 Dallas Street occupied by 2 people at about 8:45 p.m. Monday. Investigators say the suspects moved the victims to another apartment building on the property, 1268 Dallas Street, where they were threatened, bound, and assaulted. In fact, they were pistol whipped and they were cut. And they were tortured. An adult male sustained a non-life-threatening stab wound during the incident. The victims were held against their will. They were bound, both the male and the female. They were pistol whipped. They were beaten. They were victimized. They were terrorized, said Aurora Police Chief Todd Chamberlain during a news conference on Tuesday morning. How about that blue state, sanctuary state, Colorado? Oh, no. We want the criminals to leave. Well, how do you know they're criminals until they commit criminal acts? Like Venezuela's going to give us a database. You idiot. During the time they were held, the Chief Chamberlain said the suspects went to the victim's apartment and burglarized and took over that apartment, taking items of value that belonged to the victims. Police said the victims were held for several hours until they convinced the suspects to release them, promising not to call authorities. Chief Chamberlain said the victims were released just after 2 a.m., so they held them for 6 hours. Good Lord. And left the property for a friend's residence in another area of Aurora, where they called 911. You know, those of us who are not ultra familiar with Colorado, Aurora, I seem to recall Aurora as sort of a little town, a real American community. Aurora, I think where they made model planes and stuff like that, if I'm right. Multiple Aurora police officers arrived at the apartment complex and detained 14 suspects. As officers interviewed the victims, those suspects have not been identified. It's unclear what led up to the victims being kidnapped, but they're all part of that Venezuelan gang. That they know. This is an incredibly problematic complex. It is an incredibly crime-riddled complex that I think we've been focusing on. The city of Aurora has been focusing on, without question. Attention will not stop until every individual who victimizes somebody else will be held accountable to be removed from that complex, said the chief. Now, the city councilwoman who first brought all this to our attention as a nation, who was attacked for overstating the case, she said one of the things that's not being reported in the news, as you know, they kidnapped a male and a female, is that the female's fingernails were pulled out of her fingers, Mr. Producer. The Aurora Police Department has not clarified whether the suspects are tied to a gang from Venezuela, but Chief Chamberlain did say they will find out if the suspects involved in the kidnapping and assault are affiliated with that gang. I think they have since found out that they are. How stupid do they think we are? This is the same apartment complex that went viral that last time. He began talking about the bigger issue of thousands of immigrants arriving in the city, the lack of resources available for the population. He said we're talking about 40,000, 35,000 Venezuelans that were brought into the city of Aurora and dropped into the city. And he means by the Biden regime. There they are, perfectly happy community, and Biden drops 35 to 40,000 Venezuelans in there. Doesn't know if they're gang members or criminals. They don't care. That's the point. Neither does the governor of Colorado. He's a complete jackass. This is not a political discussion. Law enforcement is not political. But I was very clear on what I saw as a law enforcement practitioner and how these individuals were brought into this country in the complete disregard for how they were treated. He went on to say that the Aurora Police Department will do everything in its power to hold those involved accountable, and it's going to be done within the Constitution of the United States. How these individuals were brought into this country in the complete disregard for how they were treated as human beings when they got here. Early this month, Aurora Mayor Mike Hoffman accused Denver Mayor Mike Johnston, this guy Mike Johnston is a complete extremist nutjob, of human dumping, saying he placed migrants in Aurora apartment complexes without the city's knowledge. Look at this. It's like human trafficking between cities and towns. We don't want these people. We don't want these Venezuelan gang members. Send them over there. Now I'm sending them over there now. And Denver is a sanctuary city of the worst order. The worst order. But he issues this statement, does the pathetic mayor of Denver. I echo the strong words that Chief Todd Chamberlain expressed in his news conference. And they go on. Well, talk to your damnable governor. All these blue state governors. Hey, we're a sanctuary state. No, you're a Confederate. That's what you are. There's federal law. There's federal constitutional language. And you jackasses in these blue states that run these states, the governors, and run these cities, the mayors and the city councils, you are nothing but Confederates. You reject federal authority when it comes to this issue of immigration, in which the federal government has plenary authority. And don't give me Texas and Florida and others, where those governors, red state conservative governors, took matters into their own hands to enforce federal law. That's what they were doing. Whereas these blue governors in California, in Illinois, in Michigan, in New York, and all these other places, they are defying federal law. They are defying the federal Constitution. They are Confederates. That's what they are. They don't give a damn about their citizens. This is all about empowering the Democrat Party. I've said it over and over and over again. That's what it's about. They know one day these people will vote. Little Dick Durbin of Illinois, there's another one. He already let the cat out of the bag. They already did. I already told you they would. We got to get these people, into amnesty, legalize them. They're hardworking people, you don't know who's what, you little jerk. You overwhelm the system. You vet people. You have a managed administrative system. But you guys flooded the system. You flooded it while you had Mr. Dementia in the Oval Office, who was all for it. Bring in his millions, as many as you can. Get them in here. They'll get lost into the country. We'll get them amnesty. We'll give them parole. We'll do all kinds of stuff. Then they'll have children. We'll claim birthright citizenship. Look at this. We'll have 100 million aliens in the country before you know it. And listen to me. We've got over 20 million illegal aliens. Remember, for years, decades, they were saying we had 11 million. It never changed. And then Biden comes along. We get 10 to 12 million more. We have over 20 million illegal aliens. If they bring in 5 people each, at some point. You have 100 million aliens in the country, in a country of 320 million people. That's what the Democrats are counting on. Look at California. They don't give a damn what's happening to California. The governor there, the legislature, which has supermajorities. What gave them supermajorities were all the immigrants that came into the country, got amnesty, had children. That's how they got supermajorities. Where the rest of the population, by the way, of every background, color, creed, and religion, trying to get the hell out of there. Nevada, Tennessee, Florida, Texas. That's where they're headed. That's where they're going. The citizenry, that's where they're going. And so, see, the Democrats are thrilled. They want California everywhere. That's it. They want power. They're power hungry. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you see what the Federal Reserve did literally days after President Trump's victory? It lowered interest rates by a quarter. Do you know why it did that? It's worried about the economy. It's worried about the fact that jobs aren't being created. We're seeing all kinds of shifts in our portfolios, and it's important to stay aware. That's why I'm urging everyone to diversify and consider gold as one of your financial shields. Now, gold has weathered every kind of economic downturn throughout history. I want you to call Advantage Gold. They're the best of the best, folks. I've dealt with all of them. They're the best. They're my gold company. 1-800-900-8000. Get a free gold investment kit to see how you can get started with gold. I recommend Advantage Gold to anyone who's serious about protecting their wealth, and that's you. Call 800-900-8000 for your free gold investment kit, and you could even qualify for up to $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Call them now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. You'll be very happy with them. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Well, the shooter at the Abundant Life Christian School, 15-year-old, not 17 as reported last night, Natalie Samantha Rupnow is her name. And New York Post, the teen girl fatally shot a student and teacher and left two more pupils clinging to life at a private Christian school in Madison, Wisconsin on Monday has been identified. She brought a handgun to campus, a 9mm, and opened fire around 11 a.m. inside a classroom during study hall. The teenage student teacher were pronounced dead at the scene, while another teacher and 5 more students were wounded. 2 of them are in critical condition, life-threatening injuries clinging to life, said Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes. Rupnow sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital. An alleged manifesto. Funny how I thought there'd be something like this, some kind of manifesto. An alleged manifesto espousing angry, hateful views is circulating online that some social media users claim belong to her. But Chief Barnes said police have not yet been able to confirm that document. I don't jump ahead on stuff like this. I don't need to be the first guy out of the out of the race here, in the race, or out of the barn. I wait for the facts to come in. So you'll not hear me recite what's in that unless it's confirmed. We haven't been able to verify that it's authentic. We're certainly aware that it's been posted, he said, adding his department is working with the FBI to investigate the writings. SWAT teams raided Rupnow's family's home on Monday night, busting through the front door and conducting a thorough search inside, WISN reported. The home is about 8 miles from the school, which is in the state capital. The K-12 school is a little more than 400 students, a tiny little private Christian school. And I'm sure the parents were sending their kids there because they thought it was safe, that they wouldn't be propagandized and indoctrinated with all kinds of perversion and other crap. Rupnow opened fire inside a classroom during a study hall filled with students from different grades. As the gunfire erupted, a second grader in a nearby classroom called 911 for help. Can you imagine? A second grader? And police were on the scene in about 3 minutes. Can't get there any faster. That's remarkable. Investigators are still working to determine a motive and have been interviewing the shooter's father. At this point, There's no reason to believe her parents committed a crime, says the chief. Barnes questioned how Rupnow was able to get her hands on the gun leading up to the deadly school shooting. By the way, attention, radical left-wing Democrat Party media. It's not legal in Wisconsin for a 15-year-old to own a 9mm, except for exceptional circumstances, which wouldn't apply here. So I thought you'd want to know. Not that you give a damn, because you'll still get on your high horse. Every child, every person in that building is a victim and will be a victim forever. And I know what that chief means. He means the psychological and emotional impact is you can't unravel it. Barnes also addressed speculation online the shooter was transgender in response to a question, but he stressed how the shooter's identity was not important. Whether or not he was, they were transgender is something that may come out later. But for what we're doing right now, today, literally 8 hours after a mass shooting in a school in Madison, it's of no consequence at this time, he said. Maybe to him it's not, but the public wants to know. Many in the public want to know. If it was a racial killing or an anti-Semitic killing or God knows what other kind of killing, people want to know. President Biden called for common-sense gun control measures. Listen, I don't even know what that means. Like I said, she's 15 years old. She's not allowed to own this weapon in Wisconsin. What else? What are you going to do? You're going to search every house? I don't know. But all they do is they throw out these canards, they throw out these shibboleths, they throw out these ambiguous statements like suddenly they're going to fix something if they pass some kind of gun control law. No, they're not. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Let's see here. Luigi Mangione has now been officially charged in Manhattan with the equivalent of first-degree murder and with a terror allegation and 2 lesser counts of murder. But if he's convicted, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. They don't have the death penalty in New York. That's good, right? No, it's not good, of course. And this commissioner, Jessica Tisch, the New York City Police Commissioner, she says things sometimes that I strongly disagree with. She seems incredibly political to me. But she said something here which is, I think, a statement of fact, and it's absolutely true. Any rational human being, and unfortunately we're surrounded by a lot of irrational human beings. Any attempt to rationalize this is vile, reckless, offensive to our deeply held principles of justice. Well, she ought to tell that to Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who've now twisted themselves into pretzels to try and undo what they said. You know, you don't do murder is vicious and vile, but no. That's not appropriate, period. So this guy is, they've got him in 1,000 different ways. I think Pennsylvania was very careful. I think New York's being very careful. And just a matter of this playing out, I'm sure. Kamala Harris was in Prince George's County, Maryland today. We haven't seen her for a while. She is the vice president, you know. We haven't seen Biden in a while. You know, it's funny. I don't miss them. Do you miss them, Mr. Producer? In fact, in many ways, I'm just glad they're kind of hiding out, doing whatever they do during a period like this, you know, thinking about who they're going to pardon or preemptory pardons, and we'll get to Dizzy Lizzie Cheney in a moment. But here's her words of wisdom. Cut 2, go.
Of course, it's another school shooting. Another community being torn about and torn apart by gun
people
violence.
are being slaughtered in the state of California as I speak. She was the DA in San Francisco. She was the Attorney General in San Francisco. The Democrats control everything in California. LA is one of the most dangerous cities in the country, as are these other cities. And they just talk like they have no role in anything, like they haven't been involved in anything, like they're newly minted politicians who have great new ideas. They have no ideas. They have no records of actually doing something effective or substantive about any of this stuff. And notice there's never any discussion when people are slaughtered every damn weekend in every city in this country. Mostly black-on-black crime, not exclusively, but mostly. And now, sort of Venezuelan on black crime, but that for another day. The point is, it gets almost no attention. I don't understand why. I really don't. You got the NAACP in Loudoun County worried about cotton being handed out in the classroom. Shouldn't they be worried about other things? And not just the NAACP, all of us. All of us. There's slaughter going on in this country. On average, 16 to 18 million people are murdered every year. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. No, it's not because of guns. It's because of the people who use the guns. It's because of lax judges, particularly in the inner cities, for some insane reason, and radical left-wing prosecutors who are easy on criminals for some insane reason, who get elected over and over again for some insane reason. Go ahead.
And, of course, our nation mourns for those who were killed, and we pray for the recovery of those who were injured and for the entire community. But, look, as we hold our loved ones close this holiday season, we as a nation must renew our commitment to end the horror of gun.
Your lectures from you really are, they turn my stomach, actually. You didn't secure the border. The number of murderers and criminals coming across that border is incalculable, to be perfectly honest. The number of illegal weapons coming across that border, nobody even talks about it but me. The drugs that come across and slaughter our citizenry in every walk of life. I mean, this is really something coming from her. She was part of the defund the police movement, if you'll recall. And then she backed off that, but was still undermining the cops. And then they talk about guns, gun control, guns control. Well, then control them. What are you going to do? What are you going to do, and how are you going to do it? They're not going to do a damn thing that's effective because it's not effective. People are going to kill people, are going to get weapons. You think they're worried about increased sentencing and penalties for having an illegal weapon? What are you talking about? They're killing people. Go ahead.
Violence, both mass shootings and everyday gun violence that touches so many communities in our nation.
You know what? Thank you, but no thank you. Thank you, but no thank you. Then we have this guy, Chris Murphy of the Nutmeg State, Connecticut. He's a real nut job. David Hogue, running for vice chair of the DNC. Got to go bolder on gun violence. No, you got to go bolder on protecting citizens. Protecting citizens. Stop being soft on crime. Stop supporting soft prosecutors. George Soros owns the Democrat Party, effectively. Owns the Democrat Party. Look at these clown prosecutors. And they always want criminals let out of prisons. It's an amazing thing. Call it criminal justice reform. There's real criminal justice reform, and then it's the Democrats who call it criminal justice reform, but they want the prisons emptied, pretty much. And they don't care who comes into the country, pretty much. When you have open borders, that's the way it works. And then they want you to believe guns, that's the answer. Just take guns out of the hands of people. Even though we have relatively strict gun laws in many places, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned. You can't just go to an NRA show and buy a brand new, spanking new 9mm or 357, which is what I like, or something like that, without getting a sign-off from the federal government. Ask Hunter Biden. He'll tell you all about it. Or he'll tell you how to defy it, I guess. The Democrats said nobody's prosecuted for that. Remember? They were soft on that. Very soft on that. So this guy, David Hogue, whoever he is running for the vice chair of the DNC. Cut 5, go.
I want to help build a Democratic Party, not one that I'm just calling out publicly, but one that I'm actively working, trying to fix on the inside to make sure that what happened to my classmates is never happening again. And our party is one of the best ways of doing that, but we have to be bolder. We have to go further.
I know who he is. I remember him now. From Parkland, Mr. Producer? I'm trying to remember. Anyway, go ahead.
Issue of gun violence, and not just address how does somebody get a gun like the AR-15, but address the hatred.
She didn't have an AR-15. She had a 9mm. What are we going to do about that? These are the same people who don't believe in metal detectors. You heard the police chief in Madison, no, we don't do that. Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Yeah, I remembered him. So he's not a bad person. It's just that he's wrong. Why shouldn't we have metal detectors in our schools? I don't get it. We have them almost everywhere else. We have them for state capitals. We have them for the U.S. Capitol. I mean, you had to go through them at the stadium. I guess they call it Northwest Stadium now, the Commander Stadium. For the Army-Navy game, everybody had to go through a metal detector. But it comes to the schools. No, this is a safe place. We don't do it. Then you make the school a target when you don't do it. It's so asinine. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Levin, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. You might remember this little fella, Robert Reich. He was the labor secretary, I believe, under Clinton. Well, he's moved even further left. He really is quite the, in my personal opinion, a Marxist socialist. He puts out videos. I mock him often on my Blaze program. But he's on the Morning Schmo Show. He's on the Morning Schmo Show, and he sounds like and talks like a Marxist. And these guys have been mainstreamed in the Democrat Party. They've been mainstreamed by the media. Their ideologies are not only preposterous and dangerous, they're nuts. And so I want you to listen to what he says, and then I want to respond to this. Cut 9, go.
I think the biggest problem with having so many billionaires at the top of government is that billionaires don't exactly know how normal people live. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, the way people get to the top of the Trump administration is by providing a lot of money. I mean, Elon Musk contributed, the latest data I've seen say that Elon Musk contributed something in the order of $277 million to getting Trump elected. And he has made, since the Trump election, in terms of his actual net worth, he has increased his net worth by 170.
Let's stop for a second. Who's president of the United States? Joe Biden. Who runs the Senate? The Democrats. So if Elon Musk made $170 billion, if that's the case, he didn't make it all at once, but if he increased his wealth during the Biden-Harris administration and when the Democrats controlled the Senate. Donald Trump doesn't control anything. The power of the purse is really controlled, yes, by the House, but ultimately the Senate and the president get their say. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about, and neither does he. It's all this Marxist claptrap. That's number one. Billionaires versus normal people. What's a normal person? They call all of us neo-Nazis, so I guess we're not normal people. So who's a normal person? A legal alien? Who's a normal person? A Democrat? Is that it? So what does that mean? And too many billionaires at the top. Too many billionaires at the top. Providing a lot of money. I don't know. When we had enemy governments like communist China, providing a lot of money to the Biden family, did anybody hear Robert Reich complain about that? That seems to me to be a hell of a lot worse. Doesn't it to you? And which Democrat billionaire has he criticized? Bill Gates? Warren Buffett? I'm just curious. George Soros? The big daddy behind the Democrat Party? Now, he doesn't oppose billionaires. He only opposes billionaires who disagree with him. But I am quite curious about this. So what's a normal person? They don't know how normal people live. I guess they do at the Harvard faculty. Is that right? They know how normal people live? The Obamas know how normal people live? As they fly from one mansion to another and use one yacht after another? They know how normal people live? What does that mean? And why are billionaires all thrown together? They're billionaires and they're billionaires. They're billionaires that have created hundreds of thousands of jobs. There's billionaires who've created life-saving drugs and technologies. There's billionaires who inherit their money. There's all kinds of billionaires. Every billionaire is not the same. So this Marxist claptrap right there on MSNBC. MSNBC is owned by Comcast. Comcast is a multi-billion-dollar oligopoly. And the head people at Comcast, the main owners, the majority owners, are billionaires. Kind of ironic, isn't it? Yeah, very ironic. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, he's created his own space program. He's created his own automobile industry. God knows how many people he employs who get paychecks, who get pensions, who get health care. A lot more than Robert Reich, who's a normal person, you see. This class warfare crap, this Marxist crap is going to be the undoing of this country. Go ahead.
Dollars since the Trump election. Now, that's a pretty good return on investment.
What do you mean return on investment, you little bastard? What are you even talking about? What investment are you talking about? Donald Trump's not even in office. He hasn't made any decisions for the government. Return on investment? Go ahead.
Is such a high return on investment and a high return for many of the other billionaires and multimillionaires in the Trump administration is that they are no longer.
Now, the problem is, little fella, that under your regime that you support, Biden-Harris, and their Marxist socialist policies, normal people, yes, working people, as you say, the middle class, they were sweating bullets. And they still are until we broom this administration out. With inflation, with the cost of food, the cost of fuel, the cost of everything. It's one of the main reasons your team Marxism, lost. Go ahead.
That they're no longer going to have to be worried about as many regulations, as many lawsuits.
No, regulations affect us, we the people, our lawnmowers, our ceiling fans, our washing machines, our dryers, our dishwashers, our automobiles. They affect us, you little schmo, not the billionaires. Billionaires can do whatever they want. They affect we the people. This is why I take the time to parse and unravel what these Marxist socialists say. Because these generalities, oh, that sounds right, the billion. What are you talking about? The most powerful entity in this country is the federal government. It's not a billionaire. It's not even a collection of billionaires. Our federal government lost $250 billion, and they lose $250 billion every single year. You don't pay taxes to billionaires. You pay taxes to the federal government, those of us who pay them. Knocking on your door isn't some big corporation. It's the IRS, the enforcers for big government. Inflation isn't created by billionaires. Inflation is created by political hacks who spend more money than we give them. Open borders wasn't created by billionaires. It was created by these fools. Crime in the streets wasn't created by billionaires. It was created by these fools. I'm no special pleader for billionaires. I'm never going to be a billionaire. I don't give a damn about being a billionaire. It means nothing to me. But the entity that affects my life in so many ways, in ways that it's not even supposed to, is the government. It's not a billionaire, and it's not a collection of billionaires. And this buffoon, this normal person, this phony self-appointed elite thinks the answer is more government, more control, more iron-fisted centralized police state. That's what he supports. Him and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC and all the rest of the Marxist socialists. I'm not worried about any billionaire. I'm worried about the iron fist of the federal government knocking on my door. That's what I'm worried about. I'll be right back. You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Levin, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
Mark Levin, America's passionately cerebral voice. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
I mentioned Dizzy Lizzy. I never forget what I mention, except when I do. Dizzy Lizzy. You might recall this weekend in one of my opening statements, I explained that what criminal cases could be brought against members of this January 6th committee. And I explained behind this microphone, the speech and debate clause, that covers Congress doing its usual congressional activities. But when members of Congress or a committee of Congress steps out of its lane and is seeking to actually participate in or interfere in or to cause an executive branch action like a criminal investigation, or in the case of Donald Trump, they were calling for him to be indicted on several counts, that's not protected by the speech and debate clause. It's simply not. If you refer information to the executive branch without comment or with a generic comment, that's one thing. But when you're urging criminal charges, that's a whole nother story. And why does that matter? Because if you're withholding relevant evidence that could be useful to the defense or to the individual you're targeting, if you're censoring information, if you're obstructing the production of information, if you're tampering with witnesses in order to get a response that you want, and then you're using that information to try and convince the executive branch to criminally indict somebody, that's out of line. And I guarantee they were withholding exculpatory information. So our friend, Representative Barry Loudermilk from Georgia, this comes out today from Just the News. House GOP accuses Liz Cheney of tampering with January 6 witnesses. Ask FBI to investigate criminality. Perfect. That's exactly right. We salute you, Congressman, and your staff. Interim report by Representative Barry Loudermilk concludes January 6th attack was preventable, highlights intelligence and security failures, and Cheney's possible shenanigans. The word shenanigans is one of the favorite words of my wife, by the way. The House Administration Oversight Subcommittee and its chairman, Barry Loudermilk, on Tuesday, that would be today, released an interim report on the January 6th Capitol riot, concluding the attack was preventable, also asking for an investigation into Liz Cheney for criminally tampering with a witness during the Democrat-led congressional inquiry of the tragedy. Quote from Loudermilk, based on the evidence obtained by this subcommittee, numerous federal laws were likely broken by Liz Cheney, the former vice chair of the January 6th Select Committee, and these violations should be investigated by the FBI. The report released by the House Administration Oversight Subcommittee and its chairman, Barry Loudermilk, stated. That's what's in this news story. Evidence uncovered by the subcommittee revealed, and I'm quoting, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney tampered with at least one witness, Cassidy Hutchinson, by secretly communicating with Hutchinson without Hutchinson's attorney's knowledge. This secret communication with a witness is improper and likely violates 18 U.S.C. 1512. That's that obstruction statute that they used against Trump in many of these January 6s, remember? Such action is outside the due functioning of the legislative process and therefore not protected by the speech and debate clause. I would agree with that. Federal law criminalizes witness tampering of varying degrees and subjects a defendant to as many as 20 years in prison. And we will post this article after the program, and it has the report link, the full report within it if you'd like to read it. The report also took aim at former White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, Cheney's star witness at the nationally televised hearings, alleging that Cheney encouraged false testimony about a handwritten document, noting her sensational claim that former President Donald Trump tried to commandeer his presidential limousine that day to take it to the Capitol was directly refuted by the Secret Service. Loudermilk's report suggested Cheney also bore responsibility for Hutchinson's testimony. The report says, quote, the FBI must also investigate Representative Cheney for violating 18 U.S.C. 1622, which prohibits any person from procuring another person to commit perjury, the report said. Based on the evidence obtained by this subcommittee, I'm quoting, Hutchinson committed perjury when she lied under oath to the Select Committee. Cheney pushed back on Loudermilk's report in a statement to Fox News Digital, saying the report, quote, intentionally disregards the truth and the Select Committee's tremendous weight of evidence. Yeah, but there's a ton of stuff that was destroyed, Liz. How do you explain that? Who was involved in that? Who had knowledge of that? It seems to me that's very important information. January 6th showed Donald Trump for who he really is, Cheney said. A cruel, okay, whatever. Then she goes on rambling. That has nothing to do with what these allegations are aimed at you. Liz Cheney, Benny Thompson, the other reprobates on this committee. You're being accused of witness tampering. You're being accused of obstruction in your provision of information to the Department of Justice, to the special prosecutor. You plead not guilty. But what the committee is saying is you need to be investigated, you need to be brought under oath in front of a grand jury, and your statements need to be tested. That's what they're saying. Do you have a problem with that, Liz? That would be more due process than you gave anybody on your committee. The report confirms numerous stories reported by Just the News over the last 2 years that have substantially changed the public's understanding of that tragic day, including Bullet. The Select Committee failed to preserve significant evidence from its investigation. More than 1 terabyte of data in total. That includes missing videos of witness interviews. I might add that we have followed Congressman Loudermilk from the beginning here, and have done a very comprehensive job of reporting what he has been finding. Bullet star witness Cassidy Hutchinson made significant material changes to her original testimony with the help of Vice Chair Cheney in an errata sheet where she introduced new narratives, some that conflicted with Secret Service testimony. Bullet. Speaker Pelosi took some responsibility for not ensuring adequate Capitol security in unaired footage recorded as part of the HBO documentary being made by her daughter. We never saw that from the committee, did we? Bullet. Department of Defense officials delayed the deployment of a National Guard at the Capitol despite standing orders from President Trump to keep his speech in the Capitol safe. Now, Loudermilk accompanied the interim report with a personal letter to his House colleagues saying his review of the Democrats' January 6 committee provided evidence that Congress had ventured into the business of misleading Americans for political gain and imploring them to help reverse that dynamic. He wrote, quote, Americans expect and deserve a government that is small in size, limited in scope, fully accountable to the people as our founders intended. The actions of some elected officials and certain government bureaucrats in the aftermath of January 6, 2021 are evidence of how we have ventured far away from those basic principles of our constitutional republic. We will keep an eye on this. This is something I've been talking about, something I've been encouraging, as a matter of fact. The facts have been collected by the committee. The fact is a ton of information was destroyed. The fact is that this committee unanimously voted and asked the United States Department of Justice to bring criminal charges against Donald Trump. That's way out of the speech and debate clause protection, particularly if you're withholding potential information that would have been useful to Donald Trump and his co-defendants. Exculpatory information, other information. And I do think Liz Cheney and Ben Thompson and the rest of them need to be questioned under oath. Jamie Raskin, about what they knew and about the destruction of information. And I don't know why anybody would oppose that, especially them. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, they say free, but what they really mean is see the fine print. There's no shortage of ads from the big wireless carriers offering the latest iPhone for free. But look deeper. You'll realize to qualify, you need to trade in your phone valued at $1,000. You need to be on the $100 a month unlimited plan and pay the $35 activation fee. That's a lot of money for a free phone, don't you think? Well, don't fall for it. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, has a better option. Get a brand new iPhone 14, which has all the bells and whistles you need, plus get unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot, all for $50 a month. How about that? Half the price of the big guys, and you get a new iPhone powered by America's most dependable 5G network. Do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin today. Switching is easy. Plus, when you go to puretalk.com/Levin, you'll get an additional 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about litigation. President Trump really won that case because ABC News and George Stephanopoulos settled for $15 million plus $1 million. My calculation, that's $16 million. Because they accused him of being convicted of rape. He was not convicted of rape. But there are other individuals who've said the same thing. You know, you've got people like Acosta running around and others. You know, we got to stand up to this. ABC News buckled. No, they committed libel. They committed libel. And this is the fairest way to hold people like you punk, responsible. It's not a war on the free press. It's a war on the lying scum. But ABC News, George Stephanopoulos weren't the only ones. You're about to hear a flash montage with George Conway, Representative Greg Landsman, Democrat, Ohio, Amicia Cross, MSNBC, Brittany Cooper, MSNBC, Abby Phillip, and others. Cut 11, go.
If you don't want to be held liable for rape, like Donald Trump has, don't grab the woman's genitalia. If you don't want to be held liable for defaming the woman that you raped, don't keep lying about what you did.
Trump is unfit for office. He tried to overturn an election. That alone is disqualifying. And not to mention the fact that a court held him liable for rape, that he's a convicted felon.
At the end of the day, what we know from Donald Trump is that he has over 24 credible allegations of sexual assault. We know that he was found liable for rape. We know that this is somebody who has a long-standing history of being aggressive towards women.
But the question that I have is, why do we have a significant swath of the country that is so ready to give the democracy away for a man who is a, criminal, has been civilly held liable for rape? He's a terrible businessman.
I'll take those concerns seriously if you also express concerns about the allegations. He's been found liable for rape.
Sexual assault. That's the same thing.
Okay, so that's also true.
Not state of New York.
So we're not going to litigate those other things, but you can't just pick and choose.
Wow. You know, Donald Trump could get rich all over again by suing these people. And they're arrogant about it. They're arrogant about it. Donald Trump was not convicted of rape, and yet that was the accusation. And that was the accusation. And George Conway, as I understand, there was one story out there that he was one of the ones behind the case that was brought. If I'm wrong, George is free to call the show and have a discussion with me, which, of course, I'll never do. He's a coward. But nonetheless, we can straighten that out. So, George, what do you think, George Conway? You think you're liable for millions of dollars because you intentionally stated that Donald Trump was convicted of rape? Can we play that again at the top there, Mr. Producer, what George Conway actually said? Go ahead.
If you don't want to be held liable for rape, like Donald Trump has, don't grab the woman's genitalia.
Okay, stop right there. There you go. Pretty black and white, don't you think? Yeah, I think so. So he could be subjected to a libel suit. I think he should be, given his conduct in the dark shadow and under the radar, trying to take out Trump and other people. Time to expose that guy. Greg Landsman, Democrat, Ohio, he's another one. Cross at MSNBC, I don't even think she's there anymore. Am I mixing her up with somebody? It doesn't really matter. Brittany Cooper, Abby Phillip. Now, they were even corrected. But this Bakari Solar said that's the same thing. So that's the same thing. So when Tara Reid was molested by Joe Biden in a dark hallway on Capitol Hill, when she was about 27 years old, a staffer, fairly naive about the ways of Washington, where lurid senators are hiding behind every, what is it? Behind every door, I guess. How come she wasn't believed? How come Joe Biden wasn't called a rapist by these people, huh? How come? They don't care about all the women sold into sex slavery on the southern border. They support an open border. They support an open border. They backed Bill Clinton right to the end, despite the fact Juanita Broderick accused him of rape. Others accused him of molestation. Didn't matter. He's their guy. Doesn't matter. Ted Kennedy, Chappaquiddick, his brutal treatment of women, was a drunk, may I say with all due respect. They love Ted Kennedy, the lion of the Senate. And we have all kinds of people in the media who are a bunch of ghouls and slime balls and perverts. We know of some of them, but there's a whole bunch more, you see. The hypocrites that they are. But Donald Trump won that case, big case. I think you ought to sue George Conway. Look, I don't advise them. They can do what they want. But there's Conway. That was black and white. What he said was pretty obvious. He was held liable for rape or words to that effect, which is not true. Hey, Georgie, I recommend you get on one of your TV shows and apologize as fast as you can. That's my recommendation. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, if you're looking for updates on the drones, there are no update on the drones. Your drones won't tell us what's going on with the drones. There's your update. 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Drones. We can't even figure out what the hell drones are. Now, Kamala Harris thinks she's in line to get the nomination of the Democrat Party next time around, and I, for one, am going to support her strongly, Mr. Producer. Constitutional conservatives for Kamala being the Democrat Party nominee. I'm going to lead that organization. What do you think of that? Will you join me, America? I think you would, right? for reasons like this. She's in Prince George's County, Maryland today for reasons like this. Cut 14, go.
So I will say this as we close out this year. I ask of you this. That those here and anyone watching, that you will not walk away.
From what?
That you will stay true to your spirit and your sense of purpose.
I am. That's why I can't stand
that you will continue to fight
Yes.
for the promise of America.
I do. Yes, I will.
And I ask you to remember the context in which you exist.
Here we go, the smart stuff. Wait a minute.
I did that.
Hold on, stop. The context in which we exist. Yeah, you did that. Hold on. I want to remember the context in which I exist. Oh, this is deep. Really deep. The context in which I exist. The hell is she talking about? Does she know? And then she, yeah, I did it. I stepped in it again. Go ahead. Oh, there's the cackle.
I ask you to remember that this struggle is not new.
What struggle are you talking about? Struggle's not new. The context in which you exist. Yeah, she's my gal. Constitutional conservatives for Kamala Harris to be the Democrat Party nominee. I am starting that organization. We'll give it a good name one of these days. But get ready to fight, America. Get ready to fight. Cut 15, go.
I urge you, then, after you have had some rest, in fact, I challenge you to come back ready.
I'm ready. Born ready.
Ready to chart our path to the future.
I've got the context in which I exist. Chin up.
Shoulders back.
Shoulders.
Forever impatient for change.
Say what?
And like Sasha, ready to summon your drive, your energy, your passion to help our fellow Americans and be ready to get back.
That's enough. Please, you're giving me a headache. Oh, my God. Perfect nominee for the Democrat Party, please. Just horrendous, if you ask me. She's absolutely horrendous, but that's why we like her here. Pete Hegseth. That's right, I said it. Pete Hegseth would be a great Secretary of Defense. And I know 100% more why he'd be a great Secretary of Defense. Because Eugene Robinson of the Washington Compost says he won't be. And he's wrong about everything and anything. Cut 7, go.
Pete Hegseth is in no way qualified to be Secretary of Defense, and that's just...
Hello. He served his country. You did not. Maybe he did, Eugene Robinson. Maybe he served another country. I don't know. But he's not qualified, you know. And why is that? Because we don't know him. We don't like him. He hasn't been hanging around Washington, D.C. for 47 years. So he's not qualified. Go ahead.
I think those senators that you mentioned and probably others really can't get past that. I'm not sure they could get past the fact that this guy walking around with him who was court-martialed for that horrific incident. But he's, look, the world is on fire.
Hello. What are you rambling about, Eugene? What's your issue? First of all, why do these people even go on the Morning Schmo show? Nothing personal, Joe, but you don't have any ratings. Eugene Robinson. He worked at the Washington Compost. He still does. They don't have any subscribers. So the guy works for a paper that has no subscribers, and he goes on a show that has no viewers. For good reason. Because he's not worth subscribers or viewers. Go ahead.
The U.S. has forces around the globe and is constantly moving resources and people here and there, trying to.
This guy's rambling into absolute stupidity. I got forces all over the place. And we do? Yeah, we do. He doesn't know anything. And what are you talking about? Go ahead.
Flare-ups of these fires as best it can to keep our people as best we can out of harm's way while while fulfilling missions. That's enormously complicated, and it takes somebody who really knows the military inside out, who knows the Pentagon inside out, who knows what levers.
Like Joe Biden as president and commander-in-chief, like Kamala Harris as president and commander-in-chief. Nobody who knows who. You're rambling like an idiot. You want to know why? Because you don't have anything intelligent to say. That's why. You're rambling like an idiot. You should be a liberal talk show host. Speaking of rambling idiots, we have Chris Murphy. He's a senator from the Nutmeg State. Hello, Connecticut. He's on the Joe Scarborough Morning Schmo, the Schmoes Show, as well. Why? Couldn't they find any other guests? Really the bottom of the barrel, Joe. Who shall we attack now? Let's see. How about Pam Bondi? Oh, and Kash Patel. Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Who else? Let's attack them all. Not Rubio, though. All the others, yes. Go ahead.
I mean, it's heartbreaking to think that there aren't 3 or 4 Republicans who are willing to go to President Trump and tell him.
And agree with Chris Murphy, who's a freaking moron. Just go to President Trump and tell him. That's enough already. We Democrats. Shut up, you jerk. Go ahead.
Someone else in this country who is more qualified to run the Department of Defense than Pete Hegseth. I think they will rue the day.
I know who. Maybe we should get Pete Buttigieg. They're worried about qualifications. Seriously, America? Look at their cabinet. Filled with freaks, frauds, and phonies. Look at their White House. A collective IQ of negative 112. Qualified. He's worried about qualified. He voted for and supported Biden. He voted for and supported Kamala Harris. Qualified? Are you serious, you schmuck? Go ahead.
Put Pam Bondi in as Attorney General and Kash Patel as Director of the FBI. They've essentially signaled the end of independent federal law enforcement.
Oh, I see. And when John Kennedy appointed his brother Robert Kennedy, who was about 34 years old and had no real legal experience other than working with Joe McCarthy as his staffer on the Army McCarthy hearings, because Joseph Sr. was a buddy of McCarthy's. Now that was experience. That was independence right there, ladies and gentlemen. These people are such sniveling frauds. This guy, Chris Murphy, does he put that white makeup on, Mr. Producer, or does he always look translucent? What is that stuff on his face? He dyes his hair pitch black and then puts the whitest of white makeup on. Guy looks like one of these freaks in one of these science fiction movies. Go ahead.
Over the next 4 years, that may end up in the targeting of Democrats, targeting of media that's friendly.
Hey, jerk, you've been targeting Trump, his staff, Republicans. Don't tell us about targeting. You didn't complain once. You're another fraud and a phony. You're a hack. We're going to target Democrats. You don't get to target Democrats. We only target MAGA and conservatives and Republicans. We actually threw some of them in prison. And by God, if we could have taken the election from Trump, he'd be in prison too. But now they're going to target us. So be it. I'm not as magnanimous as Donald Trump. The only way you put an end to lawfare is when lawfare has casualties on both sides. Both sides. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Not that long ago, I was digging through some of my boxes that have all kinds of old stuff in them when I was a little kid, and some of my parents' boxes. And I came across it wasn't an IQ test of sorts, whatever it was, when I was in kindergarten. I don't even know if they do these things anymore. It might be racist or whatever. But anyway, and I'm looking at it, and they're looking at basic skills. You're not actually doing math in kindergarten, but, you know, the ability to do this, average. The ability to do that, average. A lot of average in there, Mr. Producer. Except in one category. In kindergarten, the ability to reason. I was beyond the highest quintile. And there was a comment that he's through the roof. They didn't put it that way. Through the roof. My ability to reason. And I think that's carried the day with me ever since. I don't care about math and stuff like that. I just don't. If I care about math, I'll hire a CPA. What do I need? Basic math's good enough. Algebra. What the hell have I ever done with algebra? Calculus. There's another one. Chemistry. I'm not working for a, pharmaceutical company. I'm not building bombs. So what do I care about chemistry? I really don't. And if I take, medicine, I go to the pharmacy. They tell me what I can or can't do. And the doctor, but reasoning, people can't reason for you. You have to reason for yourself. And I've come to conclude that's what we do here. We reason. We think things through. We draw conclusions based on reason. Unlike the left that draws conclusions based on ideology or emotion or just plain stupidity. We reason. Now, we've been talking about on this program, even before others were talking about it, you cannot keep putting pressure on the electrical grid the way you are. It's not going to survive. We're not providing or creating more electricity. In fact, we're killing sources of electricity. Coal, fossil fuels, nuclear, we haven't expanded that. And yet the pressure we're putting on the grid is nonstop. And if the radical left-wing nut jobs have their way, it'll collapse altogether. Well, brownouts and blackouts all over the place. Here's a story from Reuters. Half of the U.S. at high risk of power shortfall in next decade, regulator says. Regulator says, Mark Levin said too. About half of the United States, ready for this? Is at increased risk of power supply shortfalls in the next decade that could lead to outages and electricity conservation measures. They mean rationing. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation said on Tuesday. Mark said 10 years ago. As U.S. power consumption rises from AI data center, and by the way, we have these all over Loudoun County. These are these massive buildings. They're like 3 football fields long, like 20 levels high, 20 floors high. They're massive, and they're all over the place, and they all need electricity. They're these AI data centers, or the cloud, if you will. And the electrification of buildings and transportation, efforts to add electricity generation have fallen short, creating an intensifying supply-demand imbalance. NERC said in its annual long-term reliability assessment, it's going to come to a head, and it's going to really, really affect your quality of life. Remember, I wrote about this, and we've talked about it, the degrowth movement. This is all about degrowth. They say everybody needs to be on electricity, and then there's not electricity, and then you have to change your lifestyle. You have to degrowth. We're seeing demand growth like we haven't seen in decades, said John Mora, director of NERC's Reliability Assessment and Performance Analysis. Our infrastructure is not being built fast enough to keep up with the rising demand. The Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, which operates the electrical grid in 15 states, was at high risk of shortfalls even at normal peak demand periods, they said. Hello, California, here we don't come. Other grid operators at elevated risk, in which shortfalls may happen during extreme heat or cold, include PGM Interconnection, ISO New England. Hello, New England. Keep voting for those libs. Texas and California operators. Parts of the Northwest, Northeast, Southeast, Midwest were better positioned to keep the lights on over the long term. Accelerated electricity demand contributed to the high risk and elevated risk areas. They're talking about population centers. Along with planned fossil-fired power plant retirements, which may exit service before new supply comes online. You know, the libs have a lot of ideas. Most of them are stupid. NERC found that there are 78 gigawatts of confirmed generator retirements and another 37 gigawatts with announced plans for retirement through 2034. 1 gigawatt of capacity can power as many as 1 million U.S. homes. But don't worry, 78 gigawatts are confirmed generator retirements and another 37 with announced plans for retirement. So that amounts to over 100 million homes, Mr. Producer. NERC is a North American nonprofit regulator that develops industry standards, assessments, and forecasts, focusing on the reliability and security of the electrical grid. Can you imagine? There's not enough electricity. We're destroying ourselves. We are destroying ourselves. No, the left is destroying us, not you and me. They are. All these climate change, climate change, as they fly off in their private jets. Climate change, global warming, global cooling. The science is with us. The science, more and more on the electrical grid, not enough electricity on the electrical grid. And I tell you, it's actually written in Liberty and Tyranny, which I wrote 15 or so years ago, that there are going to be power shortages and there are going to be blackouts. There's going to be the redistribution of energy, which means the government's going to be all powerful. There's going to be rationing, which means the government's going to be all powerful. More centralized control, and your lifestyles are going to be affected. You won't be able to drive when you want to drive. They'll be monitoring how much electricity you use, whether it's your home or your business. I'm just telling you, this is bad. This is bad, bad, bad. I'll be right back.
Making sure the land of the free and the home of the brave stays that way. Dial Mark Levin now at 877-381-3811.
This is Radio Free America. Let's take some calls. James, Jacksonville, Arkansas, the great Karn, K-A-R-N. James, how are you, sir?
Hello, Mark. When I heard your opening monologue about the cotton in the classroom, I knew that I wanted to try and get through to you and tell you that...
All right. We're going to keep moving here. Let's go to Ernest, Rockland County, New York, the great WABC. Go right ahead, please.
Good evening. Thank you so much. Sir, this is particularly to the drones and the supposed radioactivity that's going on. A few years ago, when they built the Tappan Zee Bridge, they started hammering the floor bed in the Hudson River. And I wrote a letter to the riverkeeper because they did not include an early electronic earthquake warning system.
I see.
So News 12, this is verifiable by News 12 Westchester. Mm-hmm. So they started hammering, and 1 mile north of that bridge is Indian Point nuclear reactor. Mm-hmm. So News 12, 6 months after that, came out.
So what does this have to do with drones? I'm going to run out of time here.
Yes, sir. Well, 200 bolts had come off the nuclear reactor and put radioactivity into the Hudson. That might be what they're looking for because it went all the way down.
That might be what who's looking for?
The drones and this radioactivity that's being detected.
So the drones are looking for radioactivity, and why are drones looking for radioactivity? I'm just curious.
I'm just commenting on the story that's in the news, sir, that there's...
I read that story, and I purposely passed on it. I'm just curious to know, why would the drones be tracking radioactivity under the Tappan Zee Bridge?
No, sir. They're down in New Jersey at the Hudson River.
At the Hudson River?
That's what...
Okay. I see.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for your call. Let's keep going. Tony, Walsall, Wisconsin, the great WSAU. Can you step it up a little bit, Tony? How are you?
I can, Mark. How are you?
Okay.
I got a question. Have you ever thought about, or have you heard, my biggest concern is that they're not going to stop at gun control laws. They're going to try to control our lives through our tech. Are we going to have to register our tech? This is going back a little bit to your...
Register what? Register what?
Our tech computers, phones.
What are tech computers?
They're committed on these devices.
All right, my friend. Thank you for your call. I think I'm going to pull back from the gene pool here, Mr. Producer. Not to offend anybody, but first caller was ridiculous. The second caller, I understand what he was getting at, but not my thing. And the third caller, I don't understand. No offense, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see if we can pick up where we left off. Is that possible, Mr. Producer? Now, the story that the guy's talking about with respect to the radioactivity was on Fox 5 today. I just pulled it up here on our list of clips that I chose to skip, but now I'm going to play it. Cut 13, go.
We also know that we have drones that are flying in a grid-like pattern. In my opinion, they're looking for something. What might they be looking for? Well, potentially, we're aware of a threat that came in through Port Newark. Maybe that's radioactive material. There was and there is an alert that's out right now that radioactive material in New Jersey has gone missing on December 2nd.
Hold on. Isn't this Bellevue, New Jersey Mayor Michael Melman, Mr. Producer? Isn't there a facility in Bellevue, I think? For kooks, I mean. Anyway, go ahead.
Its destination, the container was damaged and was empty. So
okay,
potentially
wait,
we're looking
stop
for
right
that.
there, Mayor, because that's very important information. And that came from a credible source.
That came from the U.S. government.
And so it's missing?
Missing.
And they think it's in New Jersey, or it could be anywhere?
It was lost in New Jersey, in transit. And again, this is just an example of what I think that we're sniffing for. I think we do have the assets that can go up and fly around and sniff things, which is why we're not seeing the uptick we used to see in Belleville anymore. It's kind of moving, but we're seeing alerts that it's happening now in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so let me see if I understand this, Mr. Producer. So the radioactive material is moving into Pennsylvania, is that correct? And that's why there's an uptick in drones in Pennsylvania, not so much near Bellevue, New Jersey these days? Is that what I understand? Am I putting this together properly or not? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can pretend I'm one of these midnight shows and really dig into this and get into this and UFOs and all kinds of stuff and actually have a pretty fun time doing it. But I respect you too much. I respect you too much. One of two things is happening here. It's either a foreign enemy like the Communist Chinese, or it's our government. They don't want to tell us. And Donald Trump will come in, and eventually we'll know what the hell's going on. So I don't know about the radioactive material. Somebody in the government told him. Who would that be? We don't know. But I've learned a long time ago, don't chase your tail. Because you might actually catch it one day. And that's a very ugly thing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Man, that had to hurt. That had to hurt. Daily Mail, one of Vladimir Putin's top army generals in charge of nuclear and biological forces, has been killed in an explosion after a bomb hidden in an electric scooter was detonated outside his apartment in Moscow. Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov died in the blast moments after he emerged from his apartment block with his assistant, who was also killed. We call that a twofer. He's believed to be the most senior military officer to be assassinated since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. No, Ukraine's not allowed to fight back. That will just escalate things, The bombing claimed by a member of Ukraine's SBU security service came a day after Kiev had accused Kirillov of overseeing the widespread use of banned chemical weapons against its troops in the conflict zone. Charging him in abstention with war crimes, the Ukrainian SBU security service said he was responsible for more than 4,800 documented cases of Russian troops using chemical munitions since the start of the full-scale war. But don't worry, the Putinoids with their hemorrhoids are going to be very offended. What the hell? The Ukrainians took out a war monster? Come on now. Such an inglorious end awaits all those who kill Ukrainians. Retribution for war crimes is inevitable, the SBU source said. The Russian Investigative Committee confirmed the Army general's death, adding the investigation had been opened into the bombing. Russia's denied allegations it's used chemical weapons in Ukraine. Well, it's a lie. Everybody knows they have. It's not hard to find out. Photographs posted on Russia Telegram channels, Telegram, showed a shattered entrance to a building littered with rubble and two bodies lying in the blood-stained snow. Boy, they show everything at the Daily Mail. The bomb was apparently hidden in or on an electric scooter at the scene, which emergency crews could be seen inspecting. Now they send us close-ups of the pictures, and it's crazy. It's Daily Mail. It's believed the bomb was remotely detonated, setting off a blast that was equal to roughly 300 grams of TNT. 300 grams of TNT. All right, let me figure that out. It's about 28 ounces. Let's see. Okay. That's a little over 10 ounces, I think, of TNT, according to investigative reports cited by Russia's TASS news service. Let's see. The liquidation of Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, chief of Russian Armed Forces Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Defense Troops, is a special operation by the SBU. Now, that explosion came hours after the SBU said Kirillov had been charged with the use of banned chemical weapons. Hey, look, it's the way it goes. You're messing around with biological weapons, chemical weapons, other weapons, radiation weapons. You might die. You might get blown up. Now, the security service, that is, the Ukrainian security service, has documented war crimes committed by Russian Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, he's the chief of the Radiation, Chemical, and Biological Defense Troops. Well, look, at least he wasn't thrown out of the 19th floor like everybody else is over there. And the Ukrainians have demonstrated themselves to be a hell of a fighting force. They really have. Even with our help and NATO's help and so forth. They were never expected to last this long. And, you know, they don't have a ton of people there. Is Mr. Call Screener serious? He wants me to take a call, Mr. Producer? I'm very hesitant, but we've got a whole list here. Let me try. Let's go to Mike, Columbus, Ohio, on the Mark Levin app. Mike, how are you tonight?
Excellent, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
You got it.
I just wanted to say, you were talking earlier about this whole millionaire thing with this guy. I can't remember his name. The guy you were talking about earlier about.
Yeah, he's a little fella. Just remember that. That's good enough.
They just raised $1 billion for Kamala Harris.
You're right. Over Robert Reich, by the way.
Yeah, Robert Reich. Thanks. As Rush would say, Reich.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, how are you going to look at someone and say that we're the people who are, you know, turning around and we're some kind of elitist, and these people are raising $1 billion, and she's still. Yeah,
they're all full of crap. When you look at these regimes that actually embrace their ideology and take it to the extreme, all of these oligarchs are worth fortunes. They're worth a ton. I don't care where you look, whether it's Cuba, whether it's Nicaragua, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's communist China. When you look at all these regimes, at the very top, they're the richest of the rich, and they steal from everybody else. And then they want us to be upset. Why do let's be blunt. Why do I care if the guy next door is a billionaire or not? Is he taking something from me? Not taking anything from me. I'm not paying my taxes to him. He's not sending people to knock on my door and look at my income and all the rest of it. I don't care if he's a billionaire. I don't care if he's worth 3 cents. It doesn't affect me. But they want you to think that way because these are authoritarians. That's what they are. Very good, Mike. I'm with you, brother. Let's go to Maddie. West Hempstead, New York, the great WABC. Maddie, go right ahead, please.
How are you, Mr. Levin?
I'm great. Thank you.
That's good. So I was telling your call screener that when I was in elementary school, we had to do a map of the United States and do the products that the states produced, and we had to get empty capsules to put different things in it, like coal, cotton, wheat, and we had to place them on the states. But the most interesting that I remember that I can recall from many years ago was that I actually had a raw piece of cotton.
Well, that's because your teacher and the whole system was racist as hell. Obviously. Just ask the Loudoun County NAACP. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine. Go get them. The men and women in Israel. Go get them. The men and women in the United States. You got them. We won. I'll see you tomorrow.